Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the Pioneer metagame over the course of the last week. And as with all my metagames, a disclaimer, this is technically a winner's metagame, since Magic Online only posts top 32s of challenges, but this is still pretty reflective of the overall metagame. Let's jump into it. So this is the Pioneer metagame. At the very top is mono red aggro, followed by Rakdos midrange in second, and then a giant gap with Jund Sacrifice in third and Is It Phoenix in fourth. I can't believe this format got no bans when we look at this, but here we are. Let's talk about these decks, starting with Is It Phoenix. Is It Phoenix is an interesting tempo deck where they're trying to fill their graveyard as fast as possible with instants and sorceries. So they play a bunch of cheap draw spells. They capitalize on casting all of these really cheap instant sorceries with cards like Artist Talent to even fill their graveyard even more, and then draw a ton of cards off of Treasure Cruise. Now, once they put Arc-like Phoenixes in their graveyard, preferably multiple, they're able to use these really cheap instants and sorceries to cast 3 of them in the same turn, bring a bunch of Arc-like Phoenixes back in the same turn, and win the game very, very quickly. Because this deck has so much card selection, they're able to play these removal spells to kind of stop what their opponent's doing while they set up these massive, massive damage turns. This deck has been so good for so long, and it'll probably continue to still be very, very good. And third was Jund Sacrifice, which actually won a challenge this past weekend. Jund Sacrifice is a creature combo deck where what they're attempting to do is play a bunch of cards that sacrifice permanents, make foods, all that stuff, trigger Mayhem Devil a bunch of times, which is a combo in and of itself, but there's also an infinite combo with 2 Cauldron Familiars and Yigra Eater of All, where Yigra Eater of All makes creatures food. So if you have a Cauldron Familiar on the battlefield and a Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard, you can sack the Cauldron Familiar on the battlefield to bring the Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard back to the battlefield. And then now there's a new Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard, and you sack the one in the battlefield. And it's an infinite loop, and every time Cauldron Familiar enters the battlefield, you drain. And so setting that up is reasonably easy, actually. And besides all of these cool sacrifice combos, the deck is set up to go really long, playing a red-black mid-range shell on top of all of it. So they play the red-black mid-range shell until they're able to get that Mayhem Devil or Yigra combos, or even Witch's Oven Cauldron Familiar combo, and just nickel and dime their way to victory. The second most popular deck, Rakdos midrange, is again similar to Is It Phoenix, been around in this format for basically forever. It is exactly what it says on the tin. It is attempting to 1-for-1 their opponent by attacking their hand and removing the creatures, gets crazy value off things like Fable the Mirrorbreaker, Bloodtithe Harvester, Shieldred, Fear of Missing Out, and then draws even more cards with Unholy Annex, essentially being Fable the Mirrorbreakers 5 through 8, being able to totally outvalue other decks as time goes on. And the most popular deck in Pioneer is Mono Red Aggro, which won the Arena Championship this past weekend, actually. Mono Red Aggro is pretty much what it says on the tin. It is a all-in red aggro deck attempting to kill their opponent as fast as possible. Play some mice synergies in Heartfire Hero and Emberheart Challenger, which rewards you for targeting your own creatures to trigger their Valiant abilities. But really, besides that, they're just playing super, super fast red cards and trying to win the game as fast as possible before the other decks can get their feet underneath them. It is very, very good, and the most popular deck in Pioneer. But there you have the Pioneer metagame. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.